the violence of the white mob when we left our home. I still see black men being shot, black bodies lying in the street. I still smell smoke and see fire.
That clip is from a 2021 congressional hearing with gut-wrenching testimony from one of the last living survivors of the Tulsa race massacre. Viola Fletcher was a young child when that attack happened. Now, more than 100 years later, the search continues to locate the remains of people killed during the 1921 attack on Black Wall Street. Lindsay Tuckman has more as crews begin excavating another area of Oak Lawn Cemetery in Tulsa.
This is not just an archaeological initiative. This is a homicide investigation.
Searching for victims of the Tulsa race massacre, a movement decades in the making, and finally coming to a head in 2020.
You've lived your life with wondering when this narrative would have physical evidence. We have finally found a mass grave.
From May 31st to June 1st, 1921, the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma was looted and burned to the ground. Hundreds of black people were killed. Thousands more were rounded up and detained. The reason? Historians link it to the unjustifiable arrest of Dick Rowland, a black man accused of assaulting Sarah Page, a white woman. Page refused to press charges, but Rowland went to jail anyways. His community feared he would be lynched as rumors about the alleged assault spread through the white neighborhoods of Tulsa. The catalyst for so much death and destruction, historians say it falls back to an unknown gunman.
We recovered burial 27 and then also recovered the bullets that led to his demise.
Fast forward a century, research crews are excavating mass grave sites. The first dig from 2021 unearthed clues and the remains of more than a dozen potential victims.
It is a process of identifying families through databases that are accessible, DNA databases that are accessible. And then, even then, those matches will be third or fourth cousin level matches, most likely.
Researchers tried to connect the dots through DNA testing, but many of those samples were too degraded.
And last year, we recovered one individual that fits the model as described in the newspaper accounts from that time.
A second excavation dig was recommended, and now crews are re-exhuming some of the bodies originally found and expanding their search area.
There needs to be some dignity placed on these forgotten folks.
Lindsay Tuckman, Newsy.
And that brings us to this week. Crews began digging just a few days ago in Oak Lawn Cemetery. Joining us now is state archaeologist of Oklahoma and leader of the excavation project, Dr. Kary Stackelbeck. And Dr. Stackelbeck, thank you for being here. And the last excavation was more than a year ago. So what are you hoping that the second excavation will uncover? Is there anything specific you believe you'll find?
Well, thanks for having me, Holly. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak about this. As you noted, we have reopened our excavation process. We initiated that process by focusing on disinterring some of the individuals that we had exhumed last summer in order to obtain additional samples so that we could have an improved chance of getting some DNA extracted that would be hopefully lead us to identifications for those individuals that have been forgotten to history. We lacked any kind of information about them from the city ledgers for the cemetery, nor did they have any kind of headstones that would otherwise let us know who they are. And of course, and one among those individuals was Burial 27, who was one of our gunshot victims that we recovered.
And since this is the second excavation, the last one was a year ago and a couple of test runs before that, is there anything that your team has learned along the way that you think will make this time a little bit differently? Maybe is it easier or something more specific you're looking for?
Sure. It is actually a little easier. Every step that we have taken in this process has allowed us to learn more information about what's going on below the ground in Oak Lawn Cemetery, and about the history of changes in the landform, both those that were caused by human alterations but also have occurred naturally. And every piece of that information allows us to expand the excavations in a more thoughtful manner, and kind of learning from those past work that we've done. And as we expand this time, we will be, and we have actually started the process of expanding our excavation block to the south and to the west of where we left off in 2021, with the hopes of encountering additional individuals that fit the patterns that we're hoping to see in terms of gunshot victims or perhaps burn victims that may actually represent massacre victims.
Well, thank you so much for the insight, Dr. Kary Stackelbeck. We appreciate you joining us here on Newsy.
Thank you for having me.